This is not what you said when you were running, Trump. This is not what you said at all. He just went in front of the camera at Joint Base Andrews and admitted that the American people will feel some pain because of tariffs. He said they may feel some pain, but they understood that when they voted. Nobody understood that when they voted. You lied, or you just don't understand the fundamentals of tariffs, and you said that other countries will be paying the tariffs. He repeatedly said that China will be the ones paying the tariffs, and we tried so hard to explain that tariffs are paid by the company importing the goods, and then those higher prices will be passed down to consumers. Now Trump all of a sudden understands that, and he's trying to say that, hey, the American people may feel some pain. On top of that, when did he ever run on threatening our next door neighbors? When did he ever run on threatening Canada in particular? When did he ever run on threatening Denmark/Greenland or Panama? Now, he said some wild stuff on camera about the Panama Canal, about tariffs. I want to break all of this down. All that I ask from you is that you drop a like, hit that subscribe button, join the memberships below, and let's jump right in. He talks about Panama in this first clip.
They violated the agreement. They're not allowed to violate the agreement. China's running the Panama Canal. That was not given to China. That was given to Panama foolishly. But they violated the agreement, and we're going to take it back, or something very powerful is going to happen.
We're going to take it back, or something very powerful is going to happen. Who said that? Putin or Donald Trump? Now, if I hadn't just played the clip, you may think that Putin was talking about Ukraine there, but that is Donald Trump destabilizing some of our greatest alliances. And the thing with the Panama Canal is, you can just call the leader of Panama and negotiate with him. If that's your big skill, is negotiation, you can just call these countries and have a conversation, because the reality is the US, at least a year ago, is or was very respected on the global stage. People were willing to help us out. We have strategic bases in Greenland already, for example. So the idea that we need to threaten to invade Greenland or Panama in order to have them help us is completely false. It reminds me of this quote. Have you guys ever heard this quote before we go on to the next video? Quote, "As democracy is perfected, the office of president represents more and more closely the inner soul of the people. On some great and glorious day, the plain folks of the land will reach their heart's desire at last, and the White House will be adorned by a downright moron." This was said by H.L. Mencken in 1920. Almost 100 years back, over 100 years back, this dude predicted the rise of Donald Trump, and this clip I'm about to play proves it. He talks about Canada being very abusive.
Well, Canada's been very abusive of the United States for many years. They don't allow our banks. Did you know that? Canada does not allow banks to go in. If you think about it, that's pretty amazing. If we have a U.S. bank, they don't allow them to go in. Canada's been very tough on oil, on energy. They don't allow our farm products in, essentially. They don't allow a lot of things in, and we allow everything to come in. It's been a one-way street. We subsidize Canada by the tune of about $200 billion a year. And for what? What do we get out of it? We don't get anything out of it. I love the people of Canada. I disagree with the leadership of Canada. And something's going to happen there. But if they want to play the game, I don't mind. We can play the game all they want. Mexico, we've had very good talks with them. And this is retaliatory. This is retaliatory.
What does he mean something's going to happen there regarding Canada? He also said something similarly ominous when he was talking about the Panama Canal. He said, we're going to take it, and if we don't, something big is going to happen. He keeps using this ominous rhetoric, but just to back up for a second, I don't even have to tell you guys that he lied about everything he said. The idea that it's a one-way street, I believe he said, and that Canada is the one that is benefiting from this relationship is totally false. Canada also subsidizes stuff for the USA, like crude oil, and on top of that, Canada is one of the United States' closest allies and largest trading partners. We've built this robust economic relationship with trade being mutually beneficial and largely balanced, because disputes occasionally arise over dairy, lumber, or steel, but typically these are international trade disputes and are resolved through negotiation or existing frameworks like the USMCA, which Trump negotiated himself. The idea that Canada is abusive, which is what Trump said, implies unfair practices or exploitation from one side, which is not supported by any data. As Trudeau said yesterday, the relationship that we built with Canada has allowed both of these countries to flourish over the past few decades. One of the reasons why America is such a superpower is because of our next door neighbors. So Trump's inflammatory language, it's not even inflammatory language. It's like dipshittery. Dipshittery still seems like too soft of a word. It's just him being an absolute arrogant idiot who wants to posture towards our countries. It's going to hurt the diplomatic relations between the two countries. Before we move on to this next video of Trump admitting that his tariffs will cause pain, I want to read this tweet that he just made an hour ago. He said, it's beyond parody. He said, anybody that's against tariffs, including the fake news Wall Street Journal, because the Wall Street Journal editorial board came together to say this is the dumbest trade war ever, and hedge funds. Dude, the hedge fund, he is the biggest advocate of the stock market, saying the stock market's hitting all-time highs. And now that hedge funds are trying to bet against his stock market, he's calling them owned by China. Let me restart. He said, anybody that's against tariffs, including the fake news Wall Street Journal or hedge funds, is only against them because these people or entities are controlled by China. Is this even believable to people anymore? Like, who believes that our hedge funds are controlled by China? Or that Wall Street Journal is controlled by China? He has cited both of these things before as part of his success. He has said that hedge funds believe in him, but all of a sudden they're owned and controlled by China. He said owned by China or other foreign or domestic companies. Anybody that loves and believes in the United States of America is in favor of tariffs. They should have never ended in favor of the income tax system of 1913. So is that when America was great? All right, let's just debunk this in a speedy way before we move on to this next clip. The economic consensus among everybody who is educated on economics, whether it's economists, policymakers, whether it's publications like the Wall Street Journal, they all oppose tariffs because of well-documented economic reasons, not foreign influence. And it's funny because he's completely flipping it here. You know who benefits the most when Canada and Mexico are isolated from their next door neighbor? China and Russia. China and Russia are licking their chops at what Donald Trump's doing right now because tariffs often raise prices for consumers. It's going to hurt American people. It's going to hurt our relationships with our allies. It's going to disrupt supply chains, and it's going to lead to this escalatory trade war that Donald Trump is at the helm of. So the broad consensus among almost every single economist is that free trade is the one that promotes economic growth. Free trade has been the reason why we've been so prosperous over the past few decades. Also, the idea that anybody that loves and believes in the United States is in favor of tariffs. Do I even have to debunk that one? Many patriotic Americans oppose tariffs because they believe free trade benefits the country. Also, you have to remember when he's talking about the income tax or ending the income tax, it's because the income tax in specific allowed for a more equitable taxation system based on earnings rather than consumption. So it's more equitable for the average American, and Donald Trump does not want that. He probably thinks equity is equal to DEI because he doesn't understand that. So while tariffs were a significant revenue source in the 19th century, over 100 years ago, modern economics are much more complex. The income tax in particular, I don't have to explain this to you guys, but the income tax allows the government to fund infrastructure, to fund social programs, to fund the defense that has made us so powerful. So he just wants to remove it for his rich buddies. And then finally, the response to tariffs has been fantastic. Has it been? Has it been? Do I have to debunk that one? Let's move on to this next clip that I found quite interesting because he admits it's going to cause some pain.
No, I'm not concerned. We may have short-term some little pain, and people understand that. But long-term, the United States has been ripped off by virtually every country in the world. We have deficits with almost every country. Not every country, but almost. And we're going to change it. It's been unfair. That's why we owe $36 trillion. We have deficits with everybody. We help everybody. We've been helping everybody for years. And to be honest, I don't think they appreciate it. So we're going to change that. We're going to change it fast. We're going to make America great again. We have to focus on our country.
One more time, let me replay what he said. I know you guys don't like listening to his voice, but one more time, listen to this.
No, I'm not concerned. We may have short-term some little pain, and people understand that.
Do people understand that? Is that what you ran on? Did Trump run on short-term or even long-term economic pain? He said he was going to lower prices on day one. So he's admitting right there, he lied to the American people. And now, because of his weird, egotistical, instinctual obsession with tariffs, he thinks that it's okay to tariff some of our closest allies. And honestly, I'm really starting to buy the theory that him tariffing Canada is a precursor to him trying to annex Canada and using economic coercion as leverage. He said as much. He has said as much that he can't rule out economic coercion and that Canada should just join the United States if they don't want any more tariffs. But that is Donald Trump admitting that his campaign promise, his #1 promise of lowering prices or of lowering inflation, which remember, there's a healthy level of inflation that exists and we're basically at that healthy 2% level. It was a complete lie. Was there anything he promised that wasn't a lie? He said he was going to end the Ukraine war within 24 hours. That's not going to happen. They moved the timeline back repeatedly. He said he was going to deport a massive amount of people. He's been tracking the same level of Biden's deportations. There's a normal level of deportations that happen every single year due to criminals entering our country. This stuff does happen, but what Trump is doing is he's blowing it out of proportion and acting like he's enacting these mass deportations. But the thing is, he's deporting less criminals than Biden per day, but the same amount of total immigrants. What does that tell you? That he is deporting just normal immigrants who came here for a better life and haven't been processed yet. Meanwhile, what Biden was doing was what Trump promised. He was deporting people who had committed crimes in our country and were repeat offenders. Let's move on to this next clip.
Do you feel that Elon Musk is delivering on his promises?
He gets asked, do you believe that Elon Musk is delivering on his promises?
Do you feel he's doing a good job right now?
I do. I think Elon's doing a good job. He's a big cost cutter. Sometimes we won't agree with it and will not go where he wants to go, but I think he's doing a great job. He's a smart guy, very smart, and he's very much into cutting the budget of our federal government.
The one thing that we need to be doing, screaming from the rooftops, is that Elon Musk and his henchmen have been taking over multiple institutions, multiple agencies. And sometimes I wonder if the tariff trade war thing is all a distraction from what Elon Musk is doing behind the scenes, but I don't think so. I think they're all equally important, and the DEI stuff is a distraction. When Donald Trump goes on stage or at a presser and he starts talking about DEI, he's trying to make us debate over that and distract us from what Elon Musk is doing and what the tariffs will do. The federal government's most important hiring office is now overrun with Elon Musk's underqualified stooges. A bunch of young dudes came in and just tried to take it over. 2 people in OPM leadership are so young that The Wired refused to name them. One is a 21-year-old who worked at Peter Thiel's Palantir firm, and the other is a 2024 high school graduate. These dudes are both like a year or 2 younger than me. I'm 22 years old, and I would do a better job at this stuff, even though I don't fully understand the ins and outs. I can almost guarantee that I would do a better job, but I digress. The real point is that Elon Musk has done this with the OPM, the OMB, the Treasury. He's taken over all of this in a hostile way, and we need to make sure that Donald Trump isn't able to say he's cutting costs. Another thing that they're not going to be able to achieve is the $2 trillion cut that they were saying in our spending. It's not going to happen. Elon Musk already moved it down to $1 trillion, and he's most likely going to move it down even further because he is not telling the truth. I just want to end this video off by really quickly saying this quote one more time. Quote, as democracy is perfected, the office of president represents more and more closely the inner soul of the people. On some great and glorious day, the plain folks of the land will reach their heart's desire at last, and the White House will be adorned by a downright moron. Make sure you drop a like. Make sure you subscribe. Have a great rest of your day, and peace out.